We are on the cusp of a major social change. Do you feel it? Even if you don't, make no mistake, change is coming, and it is going to be unforgettable. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Hart, and here on Prime Spark, where we work with and on behalf of women over 55, I want to help you find that spark that will ignite your way forward, reflect your gifts to the world, and illuminate your path through this next stage of life. Through these podcast conversations, I hope to inspire you to see how you can make a significant contribution to some of the gnarly problems that are facing us right now. Join me, and together let's discover our Prime Spark. Hi, and welcome to Prime Spark. I'm Sarah Hart, and I'm so happy you're here with us. Prime Spark is designed for women over 50 or close, with a goal to help us all live our happiest, most successful, and fulfilling life now and in the future. The mission of Prime Spark is to change the way our society sees and treats older women. That's a big mission, which only means we all need to be involved and we need to get going now. And today I have the great pleasure of talking with Esta McIntyre, a woman whose work I greatly admire. Esta McIntyre is a seasoned wellness expert with 30 plus years in research and 20 plus years in fitness. Her program blends business success with optimal health for busy women. With humor and science, she offers a fail-proof strategy for empowered living, shedding pounds, building strength, and harnessing depleted hormones for a vibrant glow. A best-selling author and sought-after speaker, Esta's expertise is featured in Brain and Life and First for Women magazines. She's a guest on podcasts like Not Your Average Grandma and It Just Takes One. Elsa's F words, food, fitness, faith, fun/fulfillment, and finance guide her. From a love of food to fitness dedication, she emphasizes the link between health and wealth. As a medical fitness educator, she's seen self-care overlooked in the pursuit of success. Her mission: empower high-achieving women to align well-being with financial goals for boundless energy and prosperity. Welcome, Esta. I'm so happy you're here with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So in getting started, let me just ask you, do you experience getting older? And if you do, what is that experience? And if you don't, why is it that you think that you don't?
I absolutely do. Of course I do. At 68 years old, and that's something I'm very proud of, Sarah, I have to really work diligently to keep myself strong. And I think that's the name of the game, is staying strong. And we do that differently as we go through the years. You know, we don't get strong at 68 the way we did when we were 20 years old. It's a different game.
It is a different game. So in what kinds of ways is it different?
Well, let's look at it this way. You know, as we go through the years, we lose hormones deplete, especially youth hormones, right? And so if I speak to women my age and I work with them, one of the things we look at very closely is, for example, human growth hormone. And it's one of those hormones that controls metabolism, among other things. And there are ways to naturally get your body to produce human growth hormone naturally, you know? And so we look at the body as a whole so that we can be our best without the expectation of necessarily doing what we did when we were 20.
How do you naturally produce human growth hormones?
The secrets. You want me to give away all my secrets, Sarah?
Yeah.
Well, okay, well, let's start with one, for
One.
example.
Yeah. Let's just have
Um,
one secret.
let's have one. So the way that we move makes a huge difference. And I have people say to me all the time, well, I walk the dog. And that's a good thing. I always tell my clients motion is lotion. So all movement, providing you don't injure yourself, is good. But there are methodological approaches. So in other words, if you sprint, now when I say the word sprint to women my age, they become fearful, right? Because if I said to you, Sarah, I want you to sprint, you're no way, right?
No way.
But when I use that term, I teach people how to do it at their own level. So that might mean marching in place at a brisk pace, holding on to something, standing and swaying and dancing. It's all about rhythmic movements that get your heart rate a little bit raised, and then you slow it down. And then you get it a little bit raised and you slow it down, and you train your heart to be able to go to the high and go to the low. But it's all done at your pace and with your capability.
I can sprint. Every morning in the kitchen, I listen to Happy. And I've done that since March 17th, 2020, when I was told to go home and not go outside again.
You mean the song Happy?
Happy.
Yeah.
Yes, the song Happy. I play
Yes.
it every morning and I dance in the kitchen.
That's awesome.
Okay, that's great. So that's my sprinting. Does that count?
It does count, providing that we look at what your heart is doing while you're doing that.
Right.
That we see the highs and then we see the lows. And really, sprinting, the way I teach it, you sprint for 30 seconds only. So you go as hard as Sarah could go for 30 seconds. And then you actively cool down for a minute and a half. So that might mean you're stepping very, very quickly for 30 seconds, and then you stop for 90 seconds and you just sway, and it really, we look at how your body is responding to that. And it's customized for each person.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. So I'm curious as to how you originally got interested in wellness because it's very popular now. But my hunch is it wasn't this popular when you got initially interested in it.
That's so true, Sarah. The name of my book is Fitness for Women Who Love to Eat and Hate to Move. And that describes me to a T. I was, when people think of coaches that are in the fitness arena, in the wellness arena, and I'm in medical fitness, but people think of, these gym rats that's what they love to do. And that is so the antithesis of who I am. So I am the product of two clinically obese parents, each 100 pounds overweight. So 100 pounds, my dad, 100 pounds up, 100 pounds down. He died young. And I was following that path. So during my adult life, I have lost and gained over 50 pounds 5 times.
Wow.
And every time I did it, I had this innate fear of looking like my parents, right? And so I tried everything you can imagine, except, Sarah, that I was a path of least resistance girl because I did not like the gym. So I took pills. I took fen-phen back in the day. I mean, I did every shortcut you can imagine. And one day I'd had enough. The last time I put my weight back on, I was just so disgusted. I can't think of a better word. And I marched into a plastic surgeon's office and I said, I want you to suck it out. And he said, I would do that, but you're too big. And let me tell you, when a surgeon who can make thousands and thousands of dollars on you tells you to go away and come back when you've lost some weight, you know you have a problem. So I did that. I went away. I took pills to lose weight. And I marched back into his office, sleek from having taken, not healthy, but sleek from having taken pills. And I had some cosmetic surgery. And when I was done, though, I knew in my heart of hearts that that was not my ticket, that fen was not my ticket. And I asked him for the name of 2 doctors who could help me with this problem. And the first doctor he gave me was the one who gave me the fen to begin with. And I knew that wasn't my ticket. And the second doctor was a chiropractor who had a holistic weight loss program. And forgive me if this story is getting long, but I really want to paint the picture for you.
Oh, yes.
So I went through his program, and after some period of time, he said to me, I have a friend, and he is trainer to the stars. And I immediately thought, if he's trainer to the stars, I can't afford him. I'm not going. That was my knee-jerk reaction. I am not going. And he said, he'll give you a free session. And I went home and I looked him up, and he had been a trainer to stars that both you and I know. My husband said, go. It's free. It's like nothing's free in my mind. There's no free lunch. So I went. And his undergrad degree is in exercise physiology and his master's and doctorate in psychology. So while he was beating your body up, he was in your head, right? So at the end of the session, I said, I'm interested in your services. Can you tell me your fee? And he said, why don't you come back? So skeptically, I left and came back, and we went through the same process. And I said, I'm interested in your services. Can you please tell me your fee? And he said, why don't you come back? Now, at that point, my little New York City antenna were going up, and I was kind of aggravated. And I went back to my friend and I said, if he's not going to tell me what he costs, then I'm not going back. The long and the short of it, Sarah, is that he was very expensive. And we're talking now, I've been doing this well over 20 years. So we're talking over 20 years ago. And the way I paid for him is I learned how to sell things on eBay. I sold every piece of clothing that was too big on me by that point. Then I went through my poor husband's closet and I said, are you wearing this? Are you? And I sold all his clothes. And then I would go to like Ross and TJ Maxx and Marshalls. I would buy things off the rack and put them on eBay. And if they didn't sell, I returned them. And that's how I paid for him for 2.5 years.
Wow.
And Sarah, it changed my life. Because he said one day, it's time for you to pay it forward. And I was in corporate America, sedentary job, high end, comfortable 6-digit income. And I said, pay it what? And he said, pay it forward. So what does that mean? He said, what I've done for you, you need to do for others. So I went back to school. I didn't even know if I was capable, Sarah. And I hate it. How does somebody who hates exercise and loves to eat, how do they get that figured out? Well, what it made me was very relatable, because when women tell me, I hate the process, I don't want to write down my food, I don't want to this, I don't want to that. And I say to them, well, okay, we have 2 choices as we age. We can be strong and healthy and happy, or we can be sick. Either way, we're going to pay a price, right? And that's my story. That's how I got into medical fitness.
Oh, Esther, that's great. So medical fitness.
Yes.
Describe, I think from your story, I think it's obvious, but just describe what medical fitness is as compared with fitness.
Well, medical fitness is something I did in more recent years.
Right.
And I needed that, I felt, because medical fitness specialists understand the contraindications with medications. And people were coming to see me, and I would see, oh my goodness, they have, 8, 10, 12 meds when I would do an intake questionnaire. A lot of those meds impact heart rate. So, for example, if they're on a beta blocker, or even some of the antidepressant medications impact heart rate. And I needed to know what they were taking so that when I was helping them with their nutrition and to move their bodies, I really understood what was going on. And so that's the difference. Medical fitness, we kind of understand the differences, the contraindications with drugs.
Okay, I see. And I would guess, I don't have any idea about this, but I would guess that a lot of, at least, well, I don't know if it's just older women, I'll say women who come to you, maybe men too, but women have tried to lose weight with pills.
They have tried with everything. That's why my heart goes out to people who struggle, and it has nothing to do with the cosmetics of weight. And it has everything to do with health.
Right.
Right. With a lack of energy, a lack of confidence. It just rips it. When you don't feel good, your confidence levels wane, right? It's very difficult to help others or serve in any way.
And at some level, don't most people know that what they're doing is damaging them?
Well, knowing, the food is addicting, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't mean that then it leads to a change in behavior. I just mean that I think that we know when, at some level, I think we know when we're doing something that's harmful for ourselves.
Yes, but because of the addiction component, especially as it relates to highly processed foods, the manufacturers make it so that you just can't stop. Try to have just one chip, right? Who can do that? So I think,
is that largely because, like, just with chips, for example, is that largely because of fat and salt
no, it's because of sugar.
in chips?
Yeah, sugar is in everything, right?
Oh, wow.
So that's the thing. I mean, it's just a matter of re-educating and making small changes over time. And small change. In fact, I'm doing a social media post today about how tiny changes can yield huge results. Just tweaking.
What's an example of a tiny change that any of us could make that might make a big difference?
Well, let's see. I can think of a few. The first one would be adding more water. I know how much water I set a goal to drink every day. And sometimes I don't quite make it. But when I first started, I set a goal to drink 16 ounces a day, just 2 glasses of water a day, which is really not nearly enough. But I know I could do it. So the first thing to do would be to set a goal that you just know you can accomplish.
Right.
And I've heard, success principles state that you should shoot for the moon. When it comes to this work, small changes are better because you feel accomplished. And if you shoot for the moon, sometimes you feel like a failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I would think that, well, I'm for myself, the times that I have tried to lose some weight. Once I feel like it is true of anything. Once I feel like I've failed, I can just give up completely.
Yeah.
Rather than say, okay, that happened today. I'm going to start again tomorrow. I just tend to, okay, that's it.
I'm done. Yeah. I think though that there are other factors at play, and I didn't realize until I started studying, like, for example, I went to my doctor And I said, I would like to wear a continuous glucose monitor. Do you know what those are?
Yeah.
So you put them, on your arm, and they measure how your body processes sugar and glucose. And he said, you don't need one. You're not diabetic and you're not pre-diabetic. And I said, very nice. I would like to have one. And we had a little nose to nose there. And I said, let me see if I can make this simple for you. If you won't prescribe a continuous glucose monitor, I'll find someone who will. And he did. He did it. But lo and behold, when I wore that thing, and I wore it for 3 months, I suggest to my clients, wear it for 2 weeks. Just see what you see in 2 weeks. I wore it for 3 months, and I was seeing these, and I tested it, Sarah, with everything. I ate ice cream. I had broccoli. I tested it with every food I could think of. And I was seeing these spikes, and then it would drop where it would go too low, and then it would go too high again. That's not good. That is a precursor to pre-diabetes. And my mother was severely diabetic. I went back to the doctor and I said, hey, look at this. And he said, oh, that's not good. I was trying not to be angry. I was trying to be. So then I started researching ways to blunt the spikes, right? And I started losing weight little by little. If you have an insulin problem or a problem processing glucose, you can eat healthfully till you're blue in the face. If you go back off and you go on processed foods and sugar again, you're going to start gaining the weight. So there's processes that happen in the background as we age that it's really important to understand what your body's doing and how your body responds.
That's really interesting, because I thought that your body spiked with glucose when you had something with a lot of sugar in it. I thought that everybody's body did that.
Well, each person responds differently. So,
Right.
For example, I could eat a quarter cup of quinoa on broccoli, and that thing would spike like nobody's business.
Really?
And then I could have a small scoop of vanilla ice cream, and the spike was not as high, right? Now, everybody in the world talks about intermittent fasting. Have you heard people talk about
Yeah, and
intermittent
I've never
fasting?
thought that was healthy.
Well, there's a time and a place for everything.
Right.
But when I would fast with that monitor on, I would get alarms because you have software on your phone, and I would get these low blood sugar alarms that would wake me up in the middle of the night, Sarah.
Wow.
And like an alarm, and I didn't feel anything. Like I didn't feel, but I had fasted, and the alarm would go off, and my blood sugar would be too low. And it happened on different occasions when I would fast or when I would exercise on a fasted, not having eaten, anything like that. Fasting is not for everybody, but I would not have any way of knowing it without that monitor, because I don't feel anything. I don't, some people, when they have low blood sugar, they say, oh, I'm dizzy, or I feel lightheaded, or I didn't feel anything. So just had an alarm on my phone that went off.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. So Esther, do you work primarily with women, or do you work with...
I work primarily with women. I do have a few brave male clients, but they are older men. I have one male client, I've been training him for 9 years. He's lost so much weight. He has psoriatic arthritis. He is pretty much, and he's still a presiding judge at 78 years old. So I have a few brave souls that I work with that are men.
And do you tend to work with women of a certain age group, or do you have women all over the map in terms of...
You know what? Most of the women that come to see me are 50 and over for the most part. And I think it's because you attract what you are, right? And so, having a 68-year-old woman doing what I do, the 20-year-olds are not coming to see me. They're coming to see the young buff trainers,
Yeah.
So they're coming to see the young ones that have big muscles. And I tend to get the women that are either peri or postmenopausal because I know what to do for them.
Right.
And I know where to send them when they need help. We're different.
Yeah. What is this is probably an unanswerable question, but what would a quote typical 50 to 60-year-old woman come to you wanting?
That's so interesting that you asked that, because I make lists of what the pain points are of the populations with whom I work. I really want to know what bothers them. And it falls into multiple categories. I'm not going to talk about the psychological ones right away, because there are a list of those. I could read them straight from my book. But they come to me frustrated. I would say the number one emotion they're feeling is frustration. And they will say things to me like, I haven't changed anything. I'm doing everything I've always done, and I'm gaining weight like no one's business. Or my energy levels are waning. I'm doing everything I know to do, and I'm just not making progress. And I would say that's the major pain point physically of women who come to see me. Of course, that does result in anguish mentally,
Right.
because they don't feel themselves, right? They just don't feel well.
I remember I went through a time when I was gaining weight, not huge amounts, but just like enough sort of consistently. And I thought, if I keep going this direction, this is going to be really bad. And I thought to myself, I'm doing exactly what I've always done. I'm eating exactly the way I always have. I'm doing exactly the action. And all of a sudden, I heard that sentence and I thought, I think that's the problem. I don't think I can keep doing what I've always done.
That's would be a really good deduction, right? But not everyone makes that connection. Not everyone. Let's face it, Sarah, the internet is filled with diets from, up one side and down the other.
Yes.
Nobody knows whether they should be a vegan or a pegan or a carnivore, or they don't know what they should be doing, right? And there are two camps of women that come to see me. The first group is just like me. They know what to do, but they need adult supervision.
Right.
That's me. I know what to do. I am well educated in what to do. Do I always do it? I have to say no. I'm just like the rest of the world. The second group that comes to see me is so confused by the overwhelming amount of information out there. They truly don't know what to do. And the reality is there is no one answer. It's a very customized approach based on who you are.
One of the things I have wondered is the gradual weight gain as you get older. And that's not true for everybody, but I think it's true for a lot of women, the gradual weight gain as you get older. Is it due, and this is probably, again, not answerable because it depends on the person, but is it due more to continue to do what I've always done and I don't know why I'm gaining weight, or does it have to do more with change in hormones?
Let me see if I can simplify the answer a little bit. Yes, it is the latter. It is a change in hormones, not just estrogen, but testosterone, progesterone, all of that. Those hormones change, and those hormones, including HGH, are responsible for things like building muscle, bone density, all of those things. If you don't have hormones, in fact, listen to this, Sarah, from the time you are 30 years old, if not attended to, you lose muscle at the rate of 3 to 8% every decade.
Wow.
So in other words, if you do not do resistance training and weight training, even more so than cardiovascular work, you will lose that muscle at the rate of 3 to 8% every decade. Percent every decade.
Right.
That blew me away from the age of 30.
Yeah. Okay, Esther. So you're 68. On Saturday, I just had my 79th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. And one would never know.
Thank you. So that means I've had 40, almost 50 years. I'm doing this wrong. 50, almost 50 years to lose a lot of, that's in that amount of time. That's a lot of muscle to lose.
Mm-hmm. Do you get DEXA scans like bone density, body
No, yeah,
composition?
I don't, because my doctor and I have had almost fisticuffs over this. Because the last time she asked me if I would have a bone density test, I said, yeah, I'll have one. And she said, well, if it shows that you're losing bone, will you take medication? And I said, no. And she said, well, then it's stupid to have the test, isn't it? And I said, yes. And
Well,
so,
okay, so let me share something with you. I'm always very careful about how I say this, but this is my story, right?
right.
So I had gone for a DEXA scan. Now I don't take any meds. I don't take any meds, Sarah. I take supplements, but not meds. So it showed that I had a reduction in bone density in my hip. And so they wanted to put me on a med. And I said, no, I think I'll pass. So I started to research whether or not it was possible to rebuild bone. First, I took a class on bone density, and it was taught by a physician. And he said that when you take some of these meds, they do rebuild bone, but a lot of times it's not a high quality of bone, it's more brittle bone.
Wow.
Well, I thought, well, I don't want brittle bone. Now, I never followed up on that, but what I did do was I got myself a little fitness trampoline, and I didn't jump, Sarah. I just did left, right, press, 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 press. And I did that for 2 years, and I went back and my bone density was perfect. Then my sister was diagnosed, I was osteopenia, she was osteoporosis. So she was worse off than I was. And I said to her, okay, listen, I'm going to tell you what to do, but if you're not going to do what I tell you, then go get the med, right? If you do what I tell you religiously, I'm willing to bet that you're going to see changes. I told her she had to do it every single day. I didn't care if she did it 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, step, 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 push, push, push. But I told her how to do it. She had much improved bone density.
Wow.
So it was, I can't run, right? I've had back surgery. I can't run. So I can walk, and walking is great for bone density, but resistance training and stepping on that trampoline. And the reason I recommended the trampoline was that it is not contraindicated for joints, right? It's
right.
a very soft, it's the one with the bungee cords.
Yeah, no, I used to have one of those, and when I downsized, I had to get rid of it, but I loved it.
They are big.
I don't know now if my balance is good enough to do that. Can you do that step, and
Well,
hold
they have bars.
something?
They have bars on them.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can do it and hold on to a bar.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Or I tell people, put it next to a wall if you can't get one with a bar.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
It is so fantastic. And it made such a huge difference for me and for her and for other clients of mine but it doesn't happen overnight. You got to be religious about it.
Well, that's true of most things. I mean,
I mean,
Not
it takes,
not so much pills. I mean, you can take a couple pills and you probably start, but I don't want to do that.
but you know what? I think even those pills or the shots or whatever they are, I think even those takes time. They don't build bone. You can't build bone overnight,
No, that's true. That's true.
you
Okay,
know?
Esther, we're going to run out of time, and I want to know what's next for you. Do you have anything that you haven't done yet in this work or in something else that's lingering in the back of your mind that you really want to do next?
Sarah, I'm so excited about technology because for me, it has opened up the world. You and I get to spread our message throughout the universe
Right.
without regard to location, right? So I had a brick and mortar for 15 years in Los Angeles. I loved every moment of it. I loved my community, but I can only attract people within a certain radius.
Right.
Now the world is opening for me. And so we are pulling together a membership. And in this membership, it will, I will be teaching movement, methodological movement and nutrition, and interviewing doctors and people in the medical profession and health and wellness professions so that we can really have the best and the brightest helping us through the aging process.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
I hope so. I think so. I'm excited about that too. So Esther, I can imagine people are going to want to get in touch with you. How can they do that?
Flourishafter50.com is where they can really find me, and just go to contact me. They can even download a free PDF of the book if they'd like to do that, or book a call with me. They can book a call with me on that.
How
It'll
can they
take them
find
right to
out
my
about how can
calendar.
they find out about the membership, or isn't it active yet?
It's not active yet. We're rolling it out July, August timeframe. And
Okay.
it will be, I don't want to say the price yet because we're working out the details, but it will not be an expensive membership at all.
Okay, so people won't have to sell stuff on eBay in order.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, no, no, I mean, I really am on a mission, Sarah, to help mostly women to overcome the cultural norms that are associated with aging.
Yes.
It's in the news quite a bit these days. And I want to submit to you that it isn't the age, it is the mileage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, Esther, I think this whole thing about gendered ageism and aging women and old women and that. I think it's well, I would think this, but I think its time has come. I just have had Prime Spark for now 3 years. And even in that time, I've seen a huge difference. And I don't think it's just that that's what I'm focused on. I think there is a difference. So
No, I think so. I can't remember. I heard recently what the percentage of female-owned businesses is of women over 65. It's huge.
huge. Yes. I don't remember it either, but I read that and I need to go back and find that because I need to know that statistic. Okay, well, we need to end, but thank you, Esther. This has been so much fun.
Oh, same here. And it's been my pleasure.
No, it's been my pleasure too.
Thank you.
So that's our time for today. Please join us again. You can find our Prime Spark podcast on every popular outlet. Find out more about Prime Spark at primesparkwomen.com. Thank you again so much to my guest, Esta McIntyre. And don't forget, you can find her at flourishafter50.com. We'll say that for the third time, but right. Yeah. Flourishafter50.com. Thank you for being with us. Take care, spread tolerance and love. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to stay updated, you can head over to my website, primesparkwomen.com, and get my free Spark Guide, 7 questions to ignite your spark, to help you discover your own spark. See you in the next episode.